Well, exactly 33 past 9 a.m. Still on driving your business in here. And of course, before we went into the break, we're discussing matters regarding the non-alignment movement. Of course, that is scheduled, that is to take place in December, and Uganda this time around is going to be the host. But of course, as we wind up this discussion, we want to zero it down to Uganda. Of course, this is quite a great opportunity. First of all, there are two aspects in here: being a member of the non-alignment movement and also being a host country. Definitely, let's take a look into, Joram, Hanifa, what do you really think? We can zero it down to Uganda's level, after the event or even during, the benefits of Uganda being in part of this non-alignment movement.
That is direct money into the country, because these people are paying right away from the tickets. They are paying. Of course, there are countries, of course, that still pay visa. That is still money coming in. The transport that transports these people to where they are going to sleep, that is still money for the country. The hotels they are going to sleep in, that is money. If we are following the money trade, it is a great opportunity. 4,000 people count all that money that is going to come into the country. It is a very great opportunity for the country. That's if it happens, and if we are good hosts. Of course, we have hosted so many delegates before. That is great opportunity, and good for the country.
Okay, Joram, before when we in the break, you talked about you are trying to position yourself to be a part of that, because we're trying to look at these. There are people that are going to be transacting different businesses around there, because that's also another economic benefit. And probably if any person is there and you know what to do, play your cards right. I believe, Joram, that would be quite a great opportunity.
I think, and especially for any kind of service provider. But mainly people in the let's say hospitality industry. Because you realize these people will be here for a week. That doesn't mean that they will only stay for a week. There are those who will be like, let me have an extension to at least go through Uganda and see how beautiful the country is. Now, in that way, the tour operators can still use the opportunity. Then we have people who actually, doing, like Hanifa was mentioning, transportation services. There are those that would actually be in need of a private company to, to help them out in the movement. These are kind of situations that normally happen even with different summits that we are looking at this very year that will be coming. There are lots of people who normally get to know of these things, and they do their research so well that they know how they are going to, get part or be part of stakeholders. You can be a stakeholder who is generally going to be in a position of earning a lot from it, because in the private sector, the way of doing business is I am a partner, but I have to earn. I'm not only partnering to just go out, because some of these things cannot be governed by the government. Now, for example, you can easily see the government has not yet put any money into the construction of the conference yet. But of course, the proprietor of the place has to make sure that this is put in, is put in place, and maybe they will be filing for the money from government after they've put this particular building up. Because once the conference hall is there, you have to believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, there are going to be other conferences coming up. Not even 2 to 3 years. It's something for the future. Concerts, for example, different events, summits. We've been looking for places to have. Because Speak Resort Munyonyi has always been hosting these particular summits, but from the outdoor part of it. Now about when it comes to the indoor, so it's a big one for them.
Okay, very interesting. And of course, at this very time, of course, we still have more conversations coming up, and of course, looking at something happening in the tourism. But of course, before we get there, let's first get into our on-ground discussion of today. And this time around, we are looking at free education. That is for primary students and secondary at the same time. Let's get into this. Of course, we shall be returning back to wrap up the show. Good morning.
Now, the other issue which we have considered, which I will shortly invite the Minister of Education to speak in much more detail, is the issue of provision of free and compulsory education. You recall that in 1997, the government of Uganda introduced UPE, Universal primary education with the aim that our children should be able to access education. And indeed, to that end, when UPE was introduced, many children who were out of the school system got an opportunity to enter into the education system. We recall that the numbers in the primary school shot from like 2.5 million to about 7.5 million learners or pupils, meaning that our children, for various reasons, especially reasons to do with the affordability of education, the children were not accessing education. Later on, government added the free and universal post-primary education. We also added the scheme, the loan scheme in the universities and tertiary institutions, and all of these were meant to enable Ugandans access education at the various levels. But you have heard time and again government raise complaints, particularly the president, that we are getting many young people drop out of school, in the primary school, in secondary school, because of fees. In 2008, we enacted the Primary and Post-Primary Education Act, 2008, the Education Act, covering primary education as well as secondary education. And one of the provisions that are in that law is that children should, for instance, for primary education, should access primary education for free. And no head teacher or school administrator is allowed to chase a pupil or a student on the basis of failure to pay fees. But the law also provides that should anybody, including parents and other partners, wish to make a contribution to the school, they can. But no child should be chased from school on the basis of failure to pay. But this law has not been enforced adequately. So when you look at the statistics in the country, you see many of our children start primary one, but many, especially girls, drop out. By the time they finish P7, many have dropped out. Even those who start secondary, many have dropped out. So it has been a concern of government, because the NRM government, like we've been saying, the NRM party stands on 4 ideological principles. Principle number 3 is socio-economic transformation. In other words, we are in leadership to, among other things, strive to improve the quality of life of Ugandans. One way of improving the quality of life is ensuring that our children and young people have access to education. So that is the primary reason why government introduced universal free primary education. Now, earlier on, we tasked the Ministry of Education and Sports to undertake a study. What does it take for government to provide free education? Because there have been arguments back and forth from head teachers and those who run schools that maybe the money which we put in the education system is not enough for the children to study for free. And that's why they have been introducing various fees. So the Ministry of Education undertook an assessment and a technical study and have come out with what is required to enable government to provide free education. So that's the issue we're debating on the special cabinet sitting on Friday. And we took a decision that going forward, we are going to put in more resources in the education sector so that in the government schools, children should be able to study for free, both for primary and secondary.
Well, 1.9 of course trillion Ugandan shillings injected in a way to ensure that students in primary and secondary levels can access actually free education in that aspect. John, there has been, of course, fees has been one of the greatest challenges of every parent.
Yes.
Requirements, all this and that. But I think with this new initiative, but it's been there, though it kind of reached a point and it lost its relevance.
I want to say I have been a beneficiary of the USE program by government. That is the Universal Secondary Education. That is for people who have actually sat their examinations under government-aided schools. One thing I've come to notice is, yes, this money is being sent in out there. Yeah. But when you look into the administration of schools, most probably, I think parents who have students going to these government-aided schools can agree with me.
Yes, yes.
Government sends money to these schools, that is administration-wise,
yes.
Payment, payrolls and everything, infrastructure development, and it's actually mainly to do with the kind of equipment to be used, because when it comes to infrastructure development, it takes time for that money to go there. Now, most of these schools have boarding sections now. And it wasn't the case back then. Especially secondary schools. A few primary government-aided schools have boarding. Now, for the secondary schools that have boarding sections with them, they tend to ask for more charges. You will actually pay an amount that is equivalent to a private school or more.
Sure.
Yes, because government doesn't cater for boarding schools. That is according to what the school administrations say. So you will find out school administrations charging close to 1 million or 800,000. There are those who actually even charge more. The traditional government schools that we know in the country, especially those within the central region, quite expensive. So those charges, and some parents end up asking, am I supposed to pay? However, the funny twist is, if your student is under the government program, because these schools, however, remember during the cutoff points or student selection, a student who has passed highly, for example, P7, senior 4, you're going in for A level, and you've met the cutoff points, you will not pay the exact amount as the other, because government will take care of the rest. Then there are those who actually come in as purely private students. That is why some people say not all students who have met, let's say, the cutoff points meet standards. You'll find a student who has no first grade or second grade in, for example, senior 4, with a third grade. Still in A level at a big government-aided school because they have the money to pay for.
Very true.
Yes, and I think the other issue of concern is to do with development fees. I think every school pays development fees, and government schools also pay development fees, and it's compulsory to pay development fees. But however, the only challenge is again the continuity to dealing with increasing these fees every term. Schools increase, and sometimes parents who take their children there end up asking, I thought government is clearing some of the things. Back then, when USE and PA, and of course the Universal Primary Education, UPE, had come in place, a child would just go with books.
Very true.
There are some parents who actually said for them they would just go with a book. There is no need to go with the rim. Government has catered for it, but things have started changing.
That's why I was like, it kind of started to lose its
main intention,
its relevance.
Because there are parents who cannot complete
totally pay for any.
And now even food has to be paid for. Because by the look of things, the school administration says normally what the school administration say is that we cannot take care of these children with the money we receive from government. It is less. So that means lunch has to be compulsory, and the parent has to pay for that lunch. So parents end up having to contribute. That is why it takes us back to the saying that education is now expensive lately. If you don't have money, if you don't have money, you can never invest in good education.
All right, Joram, now let's wind this up. The tourism budget. The next budget framework, there is an increase of 20 billion.
20 billion.
20 billion Ugandan shillings.
Yes, and by the look of things, as the next financial year is taking center stage in the next few months.
Yes.
So when you look at this, the tourism sector has been given 20 billion more in a revised budget. Surprisingly, they say it is less because the sector has been allocated an extra 19.9 billion, rounding it off to 20 billion.
Okay.
That is for the next financial year. The budget ministerial policy statement for the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities is mainly looking at the fact they presented to Parliament last week, and it indicates that the sector's budget increased from 89 billion to now, according to the budget framework paper, it is going to be 108.9 billion. Okay. So that is roughly 19.9 billion shillings. So this urges that the sector is still underfunded, according to the ministry. And that is the Minister for Tourism, Tom Butime, who said that Parliament needs to at least help them have more budget allocations. But let's have a breakdown now of the tourism budget for the next financial year. So on the screen there, that is the breakdown for the tourism budget for the next financial year. The Uganda Tourism Board gets the second part, or the second largest percentage of the share, with 23.8 billion according to the budget framework paper. Now the ministry itself will be having 59.9 billion of that 108.9. Okay. 59.9 billion will be going direct to the ministry, which means it will be getting the lion's share. Then Uganda Wildlife Authority will be getting 21.3 billion Ugandan shillings. A month ago, the Uganda Wildlife Authority did send a statement to the ministry that they will be sending some of the wild animals to the game parks.
Okay.
Because they don't have enough money to cater for their well-being and the health, because you know it is a limited space, and the expenses are high in terms of food, and then note that the tourists come in so much lately. And of course sometimes Uganda Wildlife Authority normally gets a lot of money when it comes to foreign tourists, and as well as schools that do these tours. During holiday time, very few parents have time to take their children there.
Actually.
Now the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, that is UWEC, is the one that was actually complaining to the Uganda Wildlife Authority, or what you could call the Entebbe Zoo, that was saying that we receive less money, and you can see they will only be getting 1.9 billion.
Okay.
Then the Jinja-based Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute, which is a tourism institute that is training those who actually are stakeholders in the tourism sector, will be working out with 1.2 billion shillings. Then there is a Kasese-based Wildlife Research and Training Institute as well, which will be receiving the list of the amount, 697 million shillings. So you can see where the problem is.
It's very interesting that training institutes are among the last two
to receive.
Because I believe those are one of the cores of the tourism.
I think because those who go in these institutes still pay some money.
They still pay some money, first of all.
But again,
which is okay. But being a little bit government, it's some sort of, sometimes they need to be given the best facilities, because remember, there are lecturers in those areas, guides that are teaching all these people.
I know. And the expenses as well.
Expenses that are running in there.
Yes.
Now, the Uganda Tourism Board we see is existent because the staff in there got some of the skills from those institutes.
That is very true.
I believe it should be one of the cores. It's the core of any, till the top. And I feel like that's, to me, in my own opinion, I feel like it's little money as compared to these others. Because if we don't have because it won't mind, it won't really care. Even though we had staff onto the Uganda Tourism Board when they are unprofessional, that means funds will be allocated but wasted. Because again, at the end of the day, you want to see value for money. Yes, that money may not seem enough, but if somebody knows really how to allocate money efficiently, it can really work out and produce results that are very, very, very interesting.
Well, And of course, by the look of things as well, the tourism sector continues to be strongly underfunded, and this is going to be undermining the progress. However, my bigger question is, if we are talking about underfunding of the sector, as the Ministry of Tourism is saying, is how about what have they done? Because we had an initiative back then which was Visit Uganda. There was a lot of money put in there in advertising, promoting that brand. Then it was scrapped off for the current Explore Uganda. But when you look at, I love taking a look at Rwanda as a benchmark for us.
Definitely.
They have their Visit Rwanda, which is always, when government inputs money, there's a quick return of investment after a year. So it is a done deal. It is always something that is always proving the government of Rwanda right, that if I invest in this thing, later on it's going to bring in a lot of money for me. I think, first of all, we need to look at our tourism so strictly. The stakeholders, the Uganda Tourism Board, the ministry, to say that if the money that, for example, now 108.9 billion is being put into the tourism sector, how are we going to use this money to at least get some return on investment? Because this should be the tourism sector should be contributing greatly to the economy.
Actually, it was before the pandemic.
As they are seeking for money, let them also, set up some strategies
to bring back. That's very important. Well, and of course, exactly 55 past 9 a.m. and of course at this very time we are wrapping up the show. I'm very grateful from where we started from, all the way from the news recap, coming in all the way to the different updates and our panel discussions. And of course, we always keep driving the business. It's very important to wake up every morning, of course, to check out SMB, the latest updates in whatever sector. Where is the money coming at? All that in here at SMB. And of course, we've come to the end of the show. I've been me, Andrew Barije, and of course with Joram Polsonko, driving you through to ensure that everything is really kept so efficient. Well, coming up next is financial markets, and of course after that, more educational programs, very informative programs coming up. And of course, make sure that you don't tune in, you don't change the dial, definitely keeping there for the best of the best regarding that matter. Well, till tomorrow, and of course a good morning from the entire SMB team.
Smart 24, driving business.